What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we will be discussing the Brilliance of Code Geass. As you guys know, it's my favorite anime, and it's something that I've loved for a long time, so I will be breaking down why I think it's great and get into the nuances of the anime, so specifically the characters, the story, the music, all the things that make it as good as it is. So I'll be giving my base opinions on it, going through things I love about it, why it is basically peak anime, honestly. So let's get into it. So basically, as starters, I'll go over the premise of the show just to kind of give everyone a little brief summary if you haven't watched it in depth or you haven't watched it in a long time. So basically, the overarching premise of the show is that this crazy, powerful nation of Britannia has basically taken over a whole third of the world, and in doing so, they have basically enslaved every place they've been to, and they've replaced all of their countries with mere numbers. So obviously in Japan's case, right, they became Area 11. And the national policy of the Britannians is one of discrimination, hatred, bigotry, and brutality. So this is a good starting point, because what makes this story so great is the fact that with Code Geass, it's pretty much like an onion, right? So you just constantly keep peeling back layers after layers after layers until you finally get to the core of what's going on, and it keeps revealing itself throughout the course of the show, right? So again, like I said, it starts out very simple, right? The Britannians are this evil empire who just puts down all the people it oppresses and, just destroys everyone's lives in the process. But then you think about, why are they doing this, right? Are they just conquering the world because they want to? That's what it seems like at first, right? But then you start meeting the characters, right? You start meeting the emperor himself, right? Charles Zi Britannia. And you start to see, oh, there's more to this story than meets the eye, right? And then you realize Charles is actually conquering the world because he wants to reach the thought elevators, right? And the thought elevators are basically what connects humanity to the gods, right? And is allowing Charles to activate Ragnarok, which would basically bring an end to the gods and create this utopia that he seeks, which is that everyone's just going to be the same, everyone's going to, think the same, and all strife and conflict in the world would be over, right? And that's his premise, at least. So with Charles, it's like, yes, he's an evil guy, make no mistake about it, he's a villain through and through, but he has this warped sense of what the world should be and how he could achieve that, and that's by dominating the rest of the world so he could reach these locations, these thought elevators. And as I mentioned, these thought elevators connect to the gods, and also basically what this connection is basically the harbinger of all of human consciousness, right? So that is basically what C's world is, which is where Charles spends most of his time, right? When he's up, in the heavens, basically. So all of human consciousness, Charles was trying to change and basically conform it to his idea of a idealistic world, right? Where everyone thinks the same, everyone believes in the same stuff. So that is the overall premise of Code Geass. However, what really makes this show shine brightly is the dynamic between its main characters and the supplementation of the side characters, which adds depth and nuance to the world and makes you actually care about what's going on. Because as we all know, right, a story at the end of the day is only as good as its characters, right? If you don't care about any of the characters or they're very boring and bland, even if the story as a whole is good, it's probably going to fall apart, right? Because you're not going to really care what's going on because you have no connection to these characters, right? And with this show, there's just top tier characters littered throughout. Obviously, starting out, we're going to talk about Lelouch and Suzaku, right? Those are the two founding fundamental characters that drive the plot forward, right? Because they have such dichotomous views on the world and how to achieve peace for Japan, right? So obviously with Lelouch, the 17th heir to the throne of Britannia, right? He wants to achieve peace through bloodshed and war, and he has a ends justify the means approach, right? Whereas Suzaku is very opposed to this line of thinking. He believes that results gained by contemptible means are worthless, and he believes that in order to achieve peace for Japan and to liberate from the brutality of the Britannian Empire, he believes in a inward approach, right? He wants to change the Britannian Empire from within, right? He wants to be an example for all Japanese people to aspire to, So he is trying to make it where he's like, hey, listen, I'm an honorary Britannian, right? So if you follow what I do, there is a place for you. There is a path forward. And he believes in changing things from the inside out.
But this nation, it can be changed for the better, and from within.
While Lelouch is someone who wants to change it from the outside in. He is like, I want to destroy Britannia at all costs, and that's the only way for there to be peace, because it is a corrupted empire that has no moral compass and has no foundation of good.
The Britannia you serve is a worthless dominion.
And that is where that fundamental rift comes in between the two characters. And Suzaku believes that if he becomes the Knight of One, he'll be able to be granted the territory of Area 11, aka Japan, and then by those means, he will transform it into the country it used to be and bring back peace. That is his philosophy. But Suzaku isn't just this noble, good character because he did this crazy thing when he was a kid, and that was he killed his father, Prime Minister Genbu Kudarugi, right? And he thought by killing him in a childish, naive way that he could bring peace to Japan and no one else would get hurt. However, in doing so, he didn't realize that the Britannians are just straight up cruel and brutal, and they want to oppress and kill everyone in their path. So even after there was quote unquote peace, right after he murdered his father and the Japanese people surrendered, the Japanese continued to be oppressed and slaughtered whenever the Britannians saw fit. So that is the flaw in his character, and again, it adds depth and nuance to it, right? Whereas with Lelouch, obviously the whole reason he's doing all of this and destroying Britannia and doesn't matter about the ends justifying the means is because he's doing it to avenge his mother, who was murdered when he was a kid, and also to create a peaceful place and society for his sister Nanali, who became crippled after that event. So you have these two characters that are so fundamentally different in how they view the world and how they want to achieve peace, that it really just sets the stage for such a great story, which is then further bolstered by the side characters like Shirley and Colin Kozaki and even the villains, which also have their own range of depth to them. So people like Cornelia, who is a very staunch believer in the rules of Britannia and the discrimination and brutality that they wage upon the world. However, she even has empathy to her in her love for her sister Euphemia, as well as her late brother Clovis and her knight Guilford, right? So you could see that she cares about people around her, which is something that makes a character interesting, right? It's not like this person who's just this purely evil, selfish character who has no qualms about anybody or anything. As well as characters like Prince Schneisel, who has an aura of mysterious intrigue around him, right? He is someone who you can't quite tell what exactly he's thinking. There's times where he seems like he's brutal and he doesn't mind, killing people, but then there's also times where he seeks to avoid conflict, like when he's debating with his council in Season 2 about invading the Chinese Federation. And he suggested a peaceful negotiation with the Chinese Federation to cede some of their territories to Britannia in exchange for there being no bloodshed. So he's another character where you're like, this guy is intriguing. He's not just purely evil. He has some range of beliefs and emotions to him that make him stand out, where you can never quite tell what he's thinking or what he's up to. And then it's all wrapped in a nice bow by the voice acting cast in this show, which I don't know about anyone else, but I'm a person who likes dubs, and I think dubs have gotten great over the years, and the voice acting cast is incredible. You have Johnny Young, who's one of the best, Yuri Lowenthal, Troy Baker, Crispin Freeman. All of these guys kill their roles and bring these characters to life. And one more character I did want to just shed some light on is C2, the one who starts this entire catalyst by giving Lelouch his powers. And she's a great 1A to Lelouch because she is with them basically the entirety of the show. But she's another character that is kind of mysterious, and you don't really know what to think at first because she comes off as a person who is just in it for herself, right? She gave him a contract so he could fulfill her wishes, and it was strictly just business, and she states that many times throughout the show. However, through the process of time and seeing Lelouch work his magic, and seeing how he cares for those around him, she begins to develop a very deep personal relationship with him that culminates in expressing her love and admiration for him, to the point where she starts going in depth into her past life and all the trauma she witnessed and experienced as well as telling him her name, which she's never done before in her centuries of living. So that's such a powerful connection to have with someone, and it's just a great illustration of the bond that they grew to have throughout the course of the show. And another thing about the story that I did want to just touch on real quick is that what makes it so good, on top of just the story being awesome in general, is that there's moments of levity and fun and humor to be had in this story, right? So it's a story that's extremely serious, could be pretty depressing at times, but then you get these moments of levity, like when they're at the school festival and C2 is getting dumped into a tomato jar for a giant pizza that's going to be spun around and created for the school, or Lelouch being chased down by these thirsty girls that are trying to date him because it's Cupid Day, right? So you have these great, funny, heartwarming moments that break up the tension. And the final layer to it all is the soundtrack. The music in this show is so great because it's able to draw on all of your emotions. So we have soundtracks that are extremely sad and bring out that sorrow in you. Then you have soundtracks in the show that are extremely uplifting and motivating and make you feel this sense of energy and fulfillment. And then it's all punctuated by the ending of the show, which is so important for any show or movie, is the ending has to be great. Because that's the last thing you watch, that's what's going to be remembered, and if it's not done right, it could leave a sour taste in your mouth. But the ending for Code Geass was just so beautifully poetic and bittersweet, and in my opinion, it's one of the best endings in any media I've ever seen, honestly, where Lelouch sacrifices his own humanity and morality in order to become the villain of the world, to be struck down for the sake of everyone, for the sake of his friends, the world peace, his sister, all of it, which brings a beautifully tragic ending to such a great show. So to summarize, guys, Code Geass is great because it's a perfect marriage of great main characters who drive the plot forward, as well as side characters that supplement that plot and add breadth of nuance to the story and to the other characters, as well as having an overarching story that just gets deeper and deeper the further you go into the show. That's bolstered by a great voice acting cast and great soundtrack to put it all together. And it's a world I could just get lost in over and over again. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you found it interesting or entertaining in any way. And like I said, I'm still new to this, still growing, still learning. So hopefully you'll come along for the ride, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great one. Peace.